There are moments when you realize your entire role in your family was built on a lie. For years, I believed I was the reliable daughter, the steady anchor holding everyone together during tough times. But everything changed on a scorching Tuesday afternoon when my mother called to celebrate taking a life-changing sum of money from my savings. She thought she was helping my younger sister start over. What she did not realize was that I had already emptied the account, leaving behind barely enough cash to buy a cheap cup of coffee. My name is Kendra Vance, and at 34 years old, I have spent over a decade working as a senior financial auditor. I live a quiet, structured life in a cozy brownstone in downtown Ohio with my rescue cat, spending my days balancing complex corporate ledgers. Being the responsible sibling meant I was always expected to clean up everyone else's messes without expecting gratitude. I handled my parents' tax filings for free, covered emergency bills, and co-signed loans that were never repaid. I told myself this was what loving families did for each other. The money my family tried to take had deep roots in my childhood. My grandmother had established a small trust for me when I was 8 years old, leaving strict instructions that it was meant to secure my future. I took control of the fund when I turned 21, steadily adding money from every paycheck through market crashes and promotions. By this spring, those modest savings had grown into over $140,000. Yet to my mother, that money was never truly mine, often referring to it as an accessible family safety net. My younger sister, Sierra, was 29 and had spent her entire adult life jumping from one failed business idea to another. My parents funded every single venture, from a short-lived organic soap business to a failed life coaching service that generated no revenue. Sierra still lived rent-free in my parents' basement, completely shielded from the real world. My mother built a soft world where Sierra never faced real consequences, while I was expected to finance her endless dreams under the guise of sisterly duty. The breaking point arrived during a family dinner when my mother casually announced that Sierra needed $60,000 to open a holistic wellness center. She spoke as if my retirement savings were community property waiting to be claimed. When I firmly said no, the atmosphere in the room turned ice cold. My sister started crying, my father stared at his plate, and my mother gave me a look of deep disappointment. I left that night believing my answer was final, completely unaware of the deceit already unfolding behind my back. Over the next few weeks, my mother suddenly became obsessed with my personal medical history and daily stress levels. She called constantly to ask about my sleep patterns, my primary physician, and whether I was feeling overwhelmed by work. Around the same time, Sierra asked if I still kept copies of old estate documents from a family planning session years ago. As an auditor, my job is to spot anomalies, and these strange questions raised immediate red flags that I simply could not ignore. I pulled out my personal legal records and discovered a legal document I had signed years earlier after my grandmother suffered a stroke. It was a contingent power of attorney, designed to give my mother control over my assets only if 2 licensed doctors certified that I was mentally incapacitated. Sitting at my kitchen table, a chilling realization washed over me. My mother was gathering information about my doctor not out of maternal concern, but to find a way to activate that legal authority behind my back. A few days later, an accidental voicemail confirmed my worst fears. My mother had pocket-dialed my phone while discussing their strategy in the kitchen. I listened to my mother assure Sierra that once they gained access to the funds, the deposit for the new studio would be paid immediately. When my sister worried about my reaction, my mother casually dismissed her concerns, saying I would get mad for a little while and then get over it like I always did. Hearing those words chilled me to the bone. Instead of reacting with explosive anger, I immediately contacted a close friend who works as an estate attorney to protect my assets. I formally revoked the old power of attorney, established secure new financial accounts, and updated all my legal directives. However, knowing how slowly brokerage firms process paperwork, I realized my funds remained vulnerable as long as they sat in that original account. The only guaranteed way to protect my hard-earned life savings was to completely liquidate the entire balance before anyone else could touch it. I spent the weekend executing careful asset sales to minimize the tax impact, initiating transfers to my new private account. Over 6 days, the balance steadily dropped until the original account was virtually empty. I purposely left exactly $8.50 behind in that account. That specific number was not random. It was the exact amount my sister had stolen from my allowance envelope 20 years earlier, a childhood theft my mother had excused by telling me that real family does not keep score. When my mother called that Tuesday, bursting with excitement to announce they had added Sierra to my account, I calmly broke the news. I told her the money was already gone and that only $8.50 remained. The heavy silence on the line was instantly replaced by panicky demands and furious accusations. My mother did not express regret or ask for forgiveness. She simply shouted at me, asking how I could perform such a selfish act against my own sister. 48 hours later, a senior investigator from the brokerage fraud department called to discuss suspicious activity on my file. She revealed that an overnight package had been submitted containing my original legal form attached to a forged letter on my doctor letterhead. The document claimed I was suffering from severe mental impairment and could no longer manage my financial decisions. Compliance officers called my doctor office to verify the claim, exposing the fraudulent signature and triggering an immediate criminal investigation. Reading the forged medical document was a surreal and devastating experience. The letter used precise clinical phrasing describing me as incompetent, written by someone who understood medical office paperwork inside and out. My mother had spent nearly 2 decades working as an administrator in a medical clinic, giving her the exact expertise needed to forge such a convincing letter. She had taken intimate details about my life and weaponized them to rewrite my reality for financial gain. Word of the official fraud investigation quickly spread through our family network, sparking a coordinated smear campaign against me. Relatives began calling to express concern for my mental health, believing my mother's story that I had suffered a nervous breakdown and drained my savings in a reckless episode. My family used the very lie they created to cover up their attempt to rob me. I refused to engage in the chaotic group chats, realizing that arguing with people committed to misunderstanding me was a pointless battle. My father eventually asked to meet me secretly in a parking lot, looking older and deeply exhausted. He admitted to witnessing the power of attorney form years ago, believing my mother when she claimed it was just backup paperwork for emergency protection. He begged me to drop the matter, warning that my mother's health was declining from the stress. Looking at him, I realized he was not evil, just a weak man who prioritized quiet over justice, always choosing comfort over doing what was right. A close relative later revealed a piece of family history that helped explain my mother's twisted logic. Decades ago, my mother had surrendered her entire paycheck to support her parents and siblings, abandoning her own college dreams without receiving a single word of thanks. She had been taught that family sacrifices everything without keeping count. In her mind, she was not stealing from me. She was collecting a long overdue debt from a system that had taken everything from her when she was young. Understanding her past helped explain her behavior, but it did not excuse the crime she committed against me. When my mother unexpectedly showed up at my apartment carrying homemade food like a peace offering, she tried one last time to manipulate me. She urged me to tell the police detective that the forged medical letter was just a harmless family misunderstanding. She begged me not to destroy the family over paper, offering me a return to Sunday dinners if I just covered for her. I looked at my mother and asked if she felt any genuine remorse for trying to declare me mentally unfit. Instead of apologizing, she hardened her tone, insisting that everything she did was out of love for my sister, who needed help more than I did. She accused me of being cold and calculated simply because I always managed to succeed on my own. When I told her I would speak only the objective truth to the police, she angrily disowned me and walked out. The following week, I sat down with the economic crimes detective and provided a detailed statement covering every single event. My mother was eventually placed into a pre-trial diversion program for first-time offenders, avoiding prison while receiving court-ordered supervision. My sister was forced to take a standard job at a dental office, finally entering the workforce. Meanwhile, most of my extended family stopped speaking to me, preferring the comfortable lie over confronting the painful truth. Today, my new savings sit safely in a secure private fund, entirely beyond the reach of family expectations or guilt. Framed on the wall above my desk sits the uncashed bank check for $8.50, serving as a daily reminder of my freedom. I have learned that true self-respect means setting firm boundaries, even with the people who raised you. Choosing yourself is not an act of betrayal, and protecting your peace is worth far more than maintaining a fake harmony.